The bass of the club thrummed like a heartbeat, wild and chaotic. Soul glittered outside, but inside, Dong Jiang sat in the VIP lounge, glass of whiskey untouched, eyes hooded and distant. His men filled the room with quiet menace, the kind of presence that warned others not to come close. He was 25, rich, untouchable, and dead inside. The laughter, the music, the women who brushed close. None of it reached him. His world was a maze of power and betrayal, and he had long learned that nothing pure existed within it. Until she stumbled in. Tamara Caesar. She didn't belong there, that much was clear. Her dark curls framed a face too fresh for the club's smoky lights, her brown skin glowing with warmth that didn't match the cold Seoul night. Her friends were already tipsy, swaying to the music, but Tamara stood apart, a bright spark trembling on the edge of chaos. Her laughter was soft, uncertain, almost shy, as she tried to match their rhythm. Then she caught his eyes. For a moment the world stopped. Dong Jiang didn't believe in fate. He believed in deals, in debts, in blood oaths. But when her gaze met his, it felt like something inside him flinched awake. She approached him, hesitant at first, then bold, fueled by liquid courage and the strange electricity between them. "You don't dance?" she asked, voice lilting, accent foreign and sweet. He looked up slowly. "No." She tilted her head. "Then why come to a club?" He studied her, every gesture, every slurred syllable. She didn't know who he was, the danger that came with his name. It was disarming. "Maybe I'm waiting," he murmured. "For what?" she pressed, eyes glinting. He smiled faintly. "For someone foolish enough to ask me that." She laughed. It was the first real sound that had reached his heart in months. They talked, or tried to, through the haze of music. She told him it was her birthday, that she'd just turned 18. He felt his chest tighten, a flicker of something like guilt rising. But her honesty and innocence drowned out every rational thought. Hours blurred into flashes, her laughter, her hand brushing his, the warmth of her breath as she leaned too close. He told himself to walk away. He didn't. When they left together, Seoul streets were drenched in mist. His car cut through the night, and she sat beside him, humming softly to the radio. Every glance in her direction made his control falter. In the hotel room, she looked up at him with wide, uncertain eyes. "I've never," she whispered, words fading. He froze. Something inside him screamed to stop, to turn back, to leave. But the moment was already slipping. "I'll be gentle," he said softly, his voice trembling despite himself. The night that followed wasn't wild or cruel. It was hesitant, tender, and filled with mistakes. Her innocence burned through his numbness, and for a fleeting moment, he felt alive again. But dawn was merciless. When the first light crept through the curtains, Dong Jiang stared at her sleeping face. So peaceful, so young, and felt his chest tighten with something he hadn't felt in years. Regret. He left before she woke up. Before walking out, he did something worse. He found her purse, looked through it, and memorized her full name, her address, her ID. Tamara Caesar, a name that would haunt him. As the door closed behind him, he whispered to no one, "I'm sorry," but it was too late, because the moment he walked away, he already knew he would never let her go. 3 years had passed since that night. 3 years since he walked away from the sleeping girl who should have been nothing more than a memory. Dong Jiang had tried to forget her. He had negotiated and ruled all in the same breath. The name Tamara Caesar was buried under ledgers, blood, and the constant noise of his empire. But the human heart is a strange thing. Even in the filthiest waters, some memories refuse to drown. He had people everywhere, accountants, brokers, spies. One night, without fully knowing why, he asked one of them to find her. "Just a name," he said. "Nothing else." The file arrived a week later. Her photo stared up from the paper. A young woman in university uniform, smiling faintly, sunlight on her hair. Something inside him stilled. She looked alive in a way he had forgotten people could be. From then on, he told himself he was simply keeping an eye on her. To make sure she was safe, he said. It was a lie he repeated so often that he almost believed it. He had eyes on every corner of Seoul. Cameras, informants, small favors owed by people who never asked why. Through them, he watched her finish her studies, move into a modest apartment, and take small jobs to pay her bills. Sometimes he'd pause the grainy footage and just look. She had grown into herself, graceful, quick to laugh, but with a new edge of independence that unsettled him. "She doesn't need you," his lieutenant once said carelessly when he caught Dong Jiyoung staring at a photo on his desk. Dong Jiyoung's silence was a warning. The man never spoke of it again. At night, guilt scraped at him. He knew what it meant, the weakness, the obsession. He was a man built of order and control, yet a single girl had become the one thing that could unmake him. One winter evening, he saw her walking home through falling snow. Her hands were tucked in her pockets, her breath a small ghost in the air. A group of drunk men followed her for half a block, laughing too loudly. Dong Jiyoung was out of the car before his driver could react. He didn't speak. He just appeared, silent and cold as the snow itself. The men scattered when they saw his eyes. From the distance, Tamara never even realized what had happened. He watched her reach her door, fumble for her keys, and disappear inside. Only then did he breathe again. He told himself he'd done the right thing, that protecting her, even from shadows, made up for the past. But deep down he knew he wasn't saving her. He was saving the only part of himself that still felt human. That night, he poured himself another drink and stared at the city lights. "She's doing fine without you," he muttered. The words felt like ash. Still, every few weeks he checked again just to be sure, just to know she was smiling somewhere. He didn't notice when the line between concern and obsession disappeared. But the moment it did, destiny began to turn again, quietly, like the first drop before a storm. By the 4th year after that night, Dong Jiyoung's empire had expanded like the veins of the city itself. The Dragon Syndicate owned half of Seoul. Every whispered deal, every midnight shipment, every face that dared not look him in the eye. And yet, for all his power, one thought still ruled him: Tamara Caesar. He followed her progress the way other men checked the stock market. Reports landed on his desk without request. Small notes from people who owed him favors. Tamara Caesar, top of her class. Tamara Caesar applied for internship, denied, visa complications. Tamara Caesar, part-time at a bookstore in the evenings. He told himself it was logistics, nothing personal. But each scrap of information found a private drawer in his office, hidden among the ledgers and weapons. The guilt came and went like the weather. When it stormed, he drank. When it cleared, he built. One spring morning, a file slid across his desk from a partner in the corporate world, a legitimate front for his network. A communications firm in Seoul was opening a new division, searching for bilingual graduates with strong writing skills. Dong Jiyoung stared at the page longer than he should have. Tamara fit every line of the description. He could have left it there, another opportunity she might find on her own. But that was not his nature. Within hours, calls were made. Quietly, a scholarship she'd applied for months ago was suddenly approved. An invitation letter for the job appeared in her inbox, stamped and verified. He sat back, watching the city sprawl beneath his windows. "Now," he murmured. "We'll see what you do when the world opens for you." Tamara accepted the position 2 weeks later. She packed her small apartment, her excitement bright and unguarded.
There's been an incident.
To her,
I need
it
to
was
step away for a
destiny,
moment.
a hard-won chance to prove herself. Dong Jiyoung read every word of her public posts, every tiny glimpse of her joy. He told himself he was proud, but the pride twisted into something darker, something that kept him awake. In the security feeds of the firm, he saw her first day, a slim figure in a pale coat, bowing politely to the staff. She looked more confident now, older, composed. When she smiled at her colleagues, the sight struck him like a blade. "She's moving on," a voice whispered inside him. "She's living, and you're still here, rotting in your own empire." He didn't answer. Weeks passed. Tamara flourished. Her manager praised her dedication. Clients remembered her voice. And then, One of her coworkers began to hover. Lee